Okay, kids, this is second try on this video because I was partway through the other one and my stupid dog attacked the FedEx guy and I had to run outside and save him from a leg chewing or something. I don't know. Oh my God, who wants a dog? So anyway, hey, we're starting a unit on wetlands and it doesn't sound like much, whatever, but it's kind of a big deal because about 40 years ago, they considered wetlands as kind of a dumping ground for all kinds of garbage, and farmers, hated them. They were useless. They put pastures in them, whatever. And then they started realizing they're incredibly complex ecosystems that are really, really, really worth saving and are very valuable. Well, why that's a problem is because a lot of times wetlands weren't worth anything, and they're surrounding cities and businesses, whatever else, and they realized that if you bought up an area that was a wetland, you could drain it and build a really, really, really nice subdivision or housing settlement. Anybody know where, what is it, P.F. Chang's, and that used to be the wing place in Middleton? That was all wetland about 25 years ago. Go back on Google Earth and look at history of that location. Crazy. Somebody paid nothing for that and now made millions. And so because of that, they had to come up with this. And they came up with the idea they had to define a wetland because guys would get in court and argue, that's not a wetland. This is, that's just nothing. It's worthless. And so they actually came up with definitions for it simply because they had to take them to court and try and prove that it was, salvageable and saving or whatever else. Why define them? As we said, ecological and political at the bottom here. But here's the definition we really want. Make sure you know that one. Write that down, whatever. Have that in your notes that it's 1 meter above to 1 meter below of water and of the surface. And that's the one we really, and so that's what they'll use in court to try and define it. Now, it's really interesting. We talked about rollback stuff or climate change. Hey, guess what the current administration, the current state representation has done since Scott Walker came into office in 2010, and now he's out. But when he was in there, guess what they tried and still are rolling back? Protections for wetlands. Guess what you can do? You can build and increase industrial output. So there's a huge fight right now over saving wetlands again, which is crazy. Types of wetlands. This is what you guys see these all over the place. Cattail, deep, moderate, make sure you note this stuff right here. You see these all over there along Highway 78. This is another one along Highway 78. This is what we call little tussock sedges. They're really kind of cool because all kinds of little ecosystems within them. Our field trip to the marsh and whitewater, you'd be standing on those probably about this week sometime. Really cool little wetland. But anyway, those along Highway 78. There's also ones groundwater discharge, lots of calcium carbonate, very limey, means very much limestone. But this is the really cool one. This is what our field trip to whitewater has been all about, something called a fen. And a fen is what goes on here is that, obviously you can see there's standing water here, and you're not going to walk out in this because that's probably all gushy and you sink up to your knees. But in the background, you notice there's a mound. Now, that mound is there because underneath, the water is pushing up underneath that mound. And one thing we're going to learn later in this unit, I should have brought that up first, is the fact that when you have cold water present, there's no oxygen. If you have no oxygen, you can't decompose material. If you want to have a compost pile in your garden or backyard, you make one of those barrel things. They have to spin it and rotate it every once in a while to get oxygen in so it can decompose. Well, if there's no oxygen in here because of that cold water, water pushing up, when these plants die, they fall over and don't rot, don't decompose. So that pile right there, that could be thousands of years old. Those trees are growing on top of that. You could find mammoths way down below in there because this does not decompose. And so this fen is literally just a massive mound of undecomposed stuff, all jiggly. God, we'd have been standing on it and you jiggle it. It's like standing in a bowl of Jell-O. Why they're unique is because there's so many species in that area, and it's a really, really interesting, unique area to look at. The other ones are floodplain forests. Hey, where are those at? Well, all along the Wisconsin River. Meso is not far from many of them, all the way down along the Wisconsin River. They're floodplain forest. Bogs. Yeah. This is quite literally gushy area. The bogs, the vegetation grows out over flat standing water. And if you jumped in that, you could probably swim underneath, swim back, or get stuck underneath and be a dead man, woman, or walk across, go bloop, fall through, and you're dead. You want to see something nuts? Watch these crazy Russians. Oh my God. It's just watch it. It's crazy. So anyway, those are northern Wisconsin's loaded with those all over the place. And then a river. Okay, that's obviously a type of an area that's a wetland. Now, how they form is you get surface water. And the surface water just sits in small depressions, lakes, ocean edges, whatever. Just you get rainwater and surface water falling down in a flat area. And boom, we got them all over the place here. Okay. Flat areas, the same thing. It's all from the surface, whatever comes down. And it's a huge flat area that, again, it's a huge wetland because it's flat and covered with rainwater. And a lot of that is dictated by something, it's by precipitation, evaporation. And so there's a line kind of right down through the middle, right down through here next to this, that west of this, remember, because of the rain shadow effect, this area is so dry, there's very few wetlands all the way through here because the evaporation outpaces the precipitation, and so you don't get surface water wetlands, okay? And all that surface water is drying up all the time, okay? So we are east of that, so we get so much moisture from the Gulf and all that we're constantly having, wetlands were owned by us. Other types, this is the really cool ones here, are the groundwater influence ones. That means that the water doesn't have to come from the sky. The water comes from the ground. And so the water comes shooting up here, or it's a break in the slope right here. And the video of that we watch again in the driftless area, that is why our area is so absolutely fantastic. Guess what we have all over the place? We've got break in the slopes known as springs. And these springs are all over, and they create incredible wetlands. So again, groundwater is another way of producing wetlands, and really, really cool wetlands all over the place. Black Earth Creek starts out a break in the slope, way up in the hills out past Cross Plains. The wetland we were going to go to in Whitewater, I've never seen springs that large. It would have been really cool. They're about 2-3 feet across, and the water's coming out like somebody poked a hole in the earth. It's crazy. So anyway, those are the two ways that they're actually formed. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do right there, we're going to stop, and then I want you, jot down a few things from that section. Make sure you understand what we're talking about with wetlands. And then tomorrow we'll talk about, how they form and, how you can keep track of that kind of stuff with gorillas. Okay. All right, kids. Let me know if you got any questions. Okay.